Okay, the time flies when you're having fun, and here we are again with another aviation and whatever show. Paul Brennan here in Wellington. Right next to me is...
Martin Noakes.
Okay, so plenty has happened since we last talked, including, some would say, the controversial sale of the government's, well, not their entire shareholding in Air New Zealand, but a good 20% of it to only 6,500 investors about a week ago. People are sort of saying that's not too many, and it makes a mockery of the mums and dads thing, but would you expect many people to be interested in an airline share?
No, I'm not. I don't think it's something many people are interested in. They did sell a big chunk, though. We just don't know who to.
Yeah, how much? About 15% is sort of unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it appears to be.
Yeah. This, again, you could argue is just another one of those wealth transfers to the people who can afford it, because if you do the math, that breaks down to about 23,000 average spend across those 6,500 investors, and you have to have a bit of money in the bank to be able to do that. That's not your average person.
And that's why there's so few of them.
Yeah. But again, it was promoted as mums and dads.
Yeah, they always have to do that, don't they?
But it's a lie, isn't it?
Wow. The opportunity is there. You didn't have to go into 23K. You could have bought $1,000 worth of shares.
Well, no, you had to have a direct relationship with a stockbroker to buy these.
You can buy them online through your banking software.
Most mums and dads don't do that.
And that's maybe the problem.
Yeah. Well, they know that, though. And they know that that means that, well, you could... I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, that that your support base, which is wealthy individuals, is going to really benefit from this. So I take from your little share of Air New Zealand and I effectively give it to someone else.
Well, I don't have a share of Air New Zealand.
Well, you do. You're a taxpayer.
Well, okay. I don't have any say in the running of New Zealand, and if New Zealand does well, I don't get a dividend, so what's the point of my shareholding?
Here's the other thing. Air New Zealand is well known as quite a groovy sort of company. It's been making good profits. The management has been lauded for quite a few years on end now. If the average person doesn't respond to that and still follows the Warren Buffett idea that, if you want to lose all your money, buy airline shares, again, that surprises me that wasn't enough to...
But I think
to engage people and get over that, but it's an airline, it's a tricky business.
In the history of mom and pop investing in shares, they generally only ever done it when they've been guaranteed a return very, very quickly. Because 80% of the so-called moms and pops that buy shares, they buy them, hold them for a week, wait for the price to go up, and sell them. They're not actually interested in trading in shares.
But that's gone south too.
Absolutely.
The price went down.
Yeah, it only has to go bad a couple of times, and everyone just doesn't want to do it
so
anymore.
So you've got to ask yourself, how come those 6,500 investors, among them institutions, and there's that chunk that we are uncertain of, how come they were prepared to pay over the market for those shares?
They see it as an investment, but not many people
do.
They
were wrong, though.
Well, no.
They're down a week later. It's down.
Shares go up, shares go down, but they're counting that in 3-4 years, whenever, the share price will be higher.
Okay.
That's the gamble they take. That's why most people don't like trading shares.
It just didn't seem to come off like the way the politicians promoted it and the reasons that they said they were doing it.
From a seller's point of view, they sold it at exactly the right time. They sold it just before the price went down.
Well, now we can buy them back, and we've done a great deal, haven't we? Made money for nothing.
Yeah.
We were speculating that there might be an airline involved in earlier episodes in taking up some of these shares. Of course, what we didn't know at the time is that you actually need permission to do that.
Well, I don't know that they don't have permission. I guess that's what we should find out. Find out whether they've got prior permission, because I don't know if that would be publicised.
Because people are still talking about Etihad.
Yeah. So maybe Etihad took 10, 12, 15%. Maybe they got permission.
Hasn't been announced.
I don't know if it has to be. We should find out.
Here's an interesting thing.
Let's get on to it.
Here's an interesting story here from the 14th of the 11th, not too long ago.
Yeah.
From the Business Day page of Stuff. And it starts off, it says, no decision has been made on when the government will sell down its stake in Air New Zealand, Prime Minister John Key says. Then it says, asked today if it was true the government could not sell between December and March, he said, I don't think that's right. I haven't seen any advice on that. Within a week and a half of that story, they were selling them.
Yeah.
Should the Prime Minister be playing the poker face trader? This is him going back to the trading floor and how you can play poker and hold that guy off from making the trade so you can get it earlier and get the money.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't say no comment.
Well, well, he should have said no comment, shouldn't he? He said, I can't comment about these matters.
Yeah, that is interesting, that.
Because
a week or so before.
Because that could disadvantage anyone planning to buy the shares or trying to estimate when they might be on the market.
Well, he couldn't have said yes. Perhaps he should have said no comment.
In a coded way, if you can understand John Key's nudge, nudge, wink, wink language, that's code for get ready, get your money out, we're going to sell them real soon.
Yeah, and maybe some people did.
How do we feel about that?
It is interesting because it was only a few days after that they announced it was for sale.
Yeah, and it was over that weekend.
Yeah.
In fact, they announced it Friday, I think.
Yeah.
And then it was the weekend. The share trading halt happened on the Monday, and then it was all deal done Tuesday.
Yeah.
Did someone make them an offer? Have they had an offer they couldn't refuse?
Well, that's what we'd like to know. That's what we've got to try and find out. Airside investigative.
Branch.
Yeah.
Special branch.
Yeah, there you
There's
go.
probably nothing in it, but it seems like a...
It was disingenuous to say he didn't know, because obviously he knew.
Of course he knew.
Had to have.
We said no decision had been made.
Yeah. Unlikely.
It's interesting, Milford asset analyst Brian Gaynor told Radio New Zealand, same article mentioning this, that because the government gets monthly accounts from Air New Zealand, it's considered an insider, giving it short windows of opportunity to sell due to market and trading regulations. Mm-hmm. And he went on to say, the window is currently open, but if it did not sell by the end of November, it would be difficult to sell the shares in the next 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that.
But why? Why would it be difficult?
Yeah, they had some reason. I remember listening to that. I thought that's interesting that there was a definite window of opportunity, which they obviously jumped straight through.
All right, there you go. And just staying with matters that we talked about last time, but sort of following on from them, Qantas, they're having a hissy fit, like they haven't had for a long time. They're claiming hissy fit. They're claiming that they're being undermined by 3 foreign airlines' Virgin strategy. That's Air New Zealand, Singapore, and our friends at Etihad. And they're saying that the very future viability of the domestic market in Australia is at stake.
Yes, the crown jewel, the domestic market.
They have probably just what we could describe as a bigger version of what we have, don't
Yes.
they? They have quite a competitive trunk system. Like between Sydney and Melbourne, you'd probably
Yep.
get a good rate, and down to
Yep.
Adelaide or whatever, over to Perth. But go anywhere like Woolloomooloo or wherever,
Yeah.
on your Dash 8, you're paying through the nose like you are if you go to Rotorua here.
Yes, and that's where most of their money comes from. And yeah, they're up to their old Aussie tricks again.
They're attacking, as I understand it, from 2 angles, Virgin. They're trying to get more of the business traffic.
Yes, and they've been very successful.
And the guy Borghetti, I think he's ex-Qantas, so he knows their thinking.
All the tricks.
And also they have capability to get to regions. They've got ATRs and Embraers, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what Qantas are now afraid of is with Virgin teaming up with Air New Zealand, with Etihad, with Singapore Airlines, they are very afraid that Virgin's going to turn into a feeder network for an alternate international airline network.
Right. And we're going to join up a few dots shortly because that will bring in some activity at the Dubai airshow, the
Yes.
ordering that's been going on. But I just wonder, are Qantas in a position to make any difference or get any change here?
Qantas or big Australian corporates are very, very good at appealing to the patriotic side of the government, aren't they?
Right,
And
yeah.
they'll always play that card. You know, we are Australia, blah, 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 and they'll use every tactic they can.
Remember, the open skies policy was cancelled on the day before it was supposed to start by a fax.
Yeah.
From the Aussie guy to here, and that was it.
That
And
was
all
the
the
end of it.
plans and strategy of Air New Zealand just boom.
Yes.
And that led to Ansett being bought, which nearly killed him.
Mm-hmm.
But you could argue, and we've talked about this before, that Qantas getting into bed with Emirates is almost doing it to yourself.
I tend to take that view that Qantas have just basically given away a large chunk of their international network. Now, they can argue otherwise, but if you're in Perth and you want to fly to Manchester and you'll end up on Emirates Metal.
Yeah.
What's to stop you the next time actually booking your ticket directly with Emirates and not using any of the code share stuff?
Nothing.
So exactly.
And I
once
see
you're
they're putting an A380 onto Perth now.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't really understand what Qantas thought it was doing. And if 10 years down the line, Emirates decide not to renew, they'll have an awful lot of Australian customers who have experienced and are probably quite happy with flying Emirates one stop to just about anywhere in the world.
What do Emirates need Qantas International for, really?
Well, they don't.
They
At
don't.
all. They just like Qantas, the domestic network.
I mean, how much smaller is Qantas International than Emirates? It'd be about a third the size, wouldn't
Well,
it?
if that, look where Emirates flies to.
I know.
You know, one stop from Dubai, you get to all these secondary cities in all across Europe, all across the UK. It's an amazing network.
What we're seeing is the final death spiral of the early air route system,
Yeah,
where you had to have multiple stops. You had a kangaroo route. You had a, coral route in the Pacific. You had these multi-stage routes that came right across the world. A particular carrier or a mix of carriers own them. Now you can just fly over all of those.
Yep.
It doesn't matter anymore. Australia is not a good hub location, is it?
no. And what Emirates is also showing us is that you don't really need to have a global alliance to be quite successful, because they're not a member of any Airpoints Alliance. They do it all on their own. And this is also very interesting, leads back into this whole Etihad, Virgin, Air New Zealand, Singapore thing. The head of Etihad is an ex-Ansett guy.
Well, he knows the history of this part of the world. In
Yeah,
that
so he
case.
probably knows Air New Zealand quite well.
Well, remember, we had a quote from a story, and we mentioned it, we read it out last episode or the episode before that, where the head of Air New Zealand, Luxon, said the relationship between the management of Etihad, Singapore and Air New Zealand was exceptionally close.
Yes, they all get on famously.
As individuals.
Yes.
Yeah. You can just imagine them Skyping each other at night and working out their next move.
Yeah. And of course, you've got the sleeper there as well, Richard Branson, because he owns 10% of Virgin.
What will he do?
Well, he'll go with the money, I guess.
Yeah.
He'll use his 10% to push everyone around
Yeah.
like a mentalist.
Of course, he's connected to Singapore too, because Singapore used to own half Virgin, didn't they?
Yes, but they sold it to Delta.
Delta. Okay.
Big news last week, apart from the share float and everything, was, of course, the Dubai show.
Yeah.
Not a lot happened, really.
They got rained out
Yeah, which
on
is
day
bizarre.
4 out of 7, anyway.
But Boeing sold a lot of those new 777s, over 240.
We talk a lot about Boeing and how Airbus are doing against Boeing and Boeing sort of tactics and everything, but boy, they come up with the sales, don't they?
Right.
So
yeah.
how do they do it?
Yeah, well, they build planes.
They must have good products. Of
course, their products are great.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
But those products are tailored specifically to the Middle Eastern 3.
Yeah,
So they took all 200 odd of them.
yeah.
Airbus got another 50 sales of the A380.
That's incredible from one customer.
That is amazing. That is.
And that customer, Emirates, is saying that they're not buying them to replace older ones, it's for growth.
Yeah, so they're going to end up with 130, 140 odd A380s and a good 200 777s at any one time.
Incredible.
That's a lot of exposure for one airline and one product line to just one part of the world, though, isn't it?
Because you own most of the production line, if there is a major belly up, you could probably sell those frames.
If there's anybody to take them, yeah. But that's what some analysts are saying. They're saying that plane is too much tailored to those particular routes. Extreme long range.
The A380.
Not so much the A380.
Oh, no,
but
so I'm thinking about the A380. I mean, 50 is a big order book for one.
that's a huge order. And yes, it does apply to the A380 because the reality is A380 hasn't turned out to be that popular at the moment.
Yeah, but a whole lot of them becoming available could actually kickstart,
Possibly.
the low-cost intercity in the overpopulated countries, et cetera, and the 800 global low-cost carrier. I mean, that model's yet to come.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it will.
That'll be good for the A380.
Yeah. But all those 777s, 3 airlines, I mean, they must have some muscle. What's their skin in the game here? Either they're getting them cheap or they're getting some... Are they getting to build any of it?
Well, that's the thing. So now that the Boeing Machinists Union in Washington State have turned down Boeing's latest offer, Boeing are now open the bidding on who wants to build the plane, and apparently the Emirates are thinking of putting forward a bid to build a large chunk of the plane.
And they'd stump up with the cash to get it going,
Stump
wouldn't
up
they?
the cash, build a couple of factories.
Boy,
and
that would go down like a cup of cold stuff back home.
that wouldn't go down well at all.
I don't think that would work for them.
There's two arguments. Of course, it's great for Boeing because it's a huge risk mitigation factor because the major customer's building the plane. So if it's
Yeah.
late, whose fault is it?
Yeah, true.
Building high-tech stuff out in countries that don't have a high-tech tradition, that can go really badly wrong really quickly. It remains to be seen. I doubt it. I think that might be a bit of a ploy on Boeing's part to scare some of the states in America to come up with a better offer.
Maybe.
But who knows? I mean, they've done some pretty crazy things, the Americans.
That is a huge, when you look at the 3 airlines, it's a huge order. I think from that show, there were over 600 orders all up
Yeah.
for basically 3 airlines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Etihad ordered, I think, 95 Airbuses
Yeah.
of various types.
yeah. I mean, that's a lot of cash.
Everyone around there ordered planes. Yeah, no, that's a lot of money.
And there was a story.
$130 billion, I think, was
So it's like as much as this country
the order tally.
turns over in a year, just in airplanes.
Now, of course, Boeing's got to build this plane. First flight 2019, first deliveries 2020. In the interim, who's going to buy the old 777?
Well, you'd have to offer it for a good price.
And it's traditionally been quite an expensive plane because it's been such a capable plane.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be laying out too much, would you?
No.
In advance of that. So 19, that's still quite a way away.
They don't have a very big order backlog for the 777-300s. And the share price, Boeing's share price, has gone down since this big order for the latest plane because all of those airlines, which have traditionally been big takers, obviously they're not going to be ordering any older 777s.
Yeah. Yes, and the market knows that.
Yeah.
Or is factoring that in.
Yeah.
All right, and the A350 did okay.
Yep.
And the A320, the Neos, they did well.
Well, again, analysts are saying that the A350 will now come into its own because you can order that now and you'll get it delivered before 2019. So
that's that whole product phase thing again.
Yes, they're on the opposite phase. So yeah, it's like when the 787 was announced, it took a while to come to fruition. From the day it was announced, Airbus sold over 800 A330s.
The biggest period of sales
Yeah.
post the announcement than before.
Yeah.
Which is counterintuitive.
Yeah. But apart from that, the Dubai show was pretty boring, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be anything more than a Middle Eastern show. It's not like a world show like Farnborough or...
no, I think a lot of airlines make sure their announcements aren't made there.
Yeah, except the Middle Eastern ones.
Yeah, they don't want to give them the credit.
Now, of course, also everyone's wondering what's going to happen with this new sort of deal between the US and Iran coming up.
Yeah.
There's got to be some sales there somewhere soon.
Well, apparently not under this first phase of this relaxation of the sanctions.
No, but
eventually.
6 months goes quick.
Yeah.
And then it's a year or two.
Yeah.
I believe as part of the relaxation, they'll be able to buy parts.
Some new parts, and if they don't bomb anybody in the interim, they'll be able to order new planes eventually.
Who will be in for that? Because they've got cash, they've got frozen cash that'll be released. They've got billions of dollars frozen. They've got money.
Yep.
So what are they going to buy? Airbus or Boeing or both again?
Well, a friend of mine.
The Boeing airline. Fundamentally,
a friend of mine who's recently travelled to Iran. He says they just love the Americans. He says it's strange.
Yeah, well, the young people do.
Yeah, not the great Satan.
No. Well, that may be why they like them, because they are the great Satan. I don't know. But watch that space, because they will have to get some new planes. They're flying around in those 70s era, early 747s. They're not allowed to fly them to Europe.
Well, they're not allowed to buy any plane younger than 8 years. So that's how they can fly there. The
Airbus is allowed in Europe, but not the 74s.
No. They get charged top dollar, so people are flogging in their old A340s.
Yeah, for top dollar.
For big cash.
Yeah, it's like sending old Mazdas to Samoa and $6,000 a piece. Be lucky if they go. All right. A crash to report in the time we last spoke, a 737-500 at Kazan International Airport, Tatarstan, Russia. Apparently, it plunged vertically into the runway after the second approach attempt.
Yeah, I saw the dashcam video, the ubiquitous Russian dashcam video, and that thing just went straight in, didn't it? Yeah, I see that on the Prune site, they're saying that it looks like a case of vertigo with the pilots. Okay. And you remember back in, it'll be about a decade ago now, there was that crash out of one of the, was it Sinai or Sharm el Sheikh out of Egypt? Oh,
737.
No, Bahrain, wasn't it?
Well,
anyway.
Somewhere around that area, and they just inexplicably plunged into the sea.
Straight into the sea, yeah.
They got vertigo.
Just off the end of the runway.
Yeah, at night, no ground reference.
Right.
Went into a climb, we got too steep, they went to correct, they got vertigo, and they fell out of the sky. And they're saying the same thing happened.
Might that have been the reason for that, was it Air India out of Beirut?
No, that was Ethiopian 737-800, into the Mediterranean again.
Also straight in, eh?
Yeah, and they haven't worked it out yet, I don't think, this theory. So, no chance of survival with that one.
Jeez, no.
And the old 737-500, not many people know that there's a 500, but there is.
Yeah.
Little short thing.
Long range.
Originally from Air France, that one. I think they had quite a big fleet, actually. Maybe 20, 25 of them. They replaced the 200. Same fuselage
exactly
length.
the same plane, really, eh?
Yeah, pretty well.
Engines.
Different engines, same plane, different engines. Slightly different nose wheel. And the The Dreamlifter, this converted 747, I think there are 4 of them around, and is it Atlas Air operate them for Boeing?
On behalf of Boeing, yep.
And they take the 787 parts and I guess other parts around the place, sort of like the Guppies that Airbus have, the Belugas. They landed at the wrong airport in Kansas. That made the mainstream news.
Yes. It was a little, well, not that little, it was 6,100-foot regional airport runway.
Yeah.
Exactly in line with the runway they were heading for.
Right.
And according to the chief of flight operations at the Boeing Wichita plant,
Yeah.
he says it's not uncommon for pilots to make that mistake, although how many have landed there we don't know.
So even though, what was the distance again?
Yeah, 8 miles, so 14 Ks.
Yeah, well, that's quite a way, isn't it?
Was
Was it at night?
It was at night.
Oh, okay. Well, they obviously lost their situational awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And well, they'd be in the boss's office, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely.
There was a funny thing. There was a video of them taking off a day or so later. Obviously, they must have taken a bit of weight out or did something anyway. And I don't know if it was the same crew or not, but they requested takeoff clearance. And the guy came back and said, before he gave him the takeoff clearance, he said, "Do you know which airport you're at, sir?" He came back. Pilot came back and said, "I think we got a pretty good idea this time." And then they cleared him for takeoff, and that was it. But they got off in no time.
Yeah.
I've seen a 7.4 takeoff here at Wellington, 200, in less than half the runway.
With a stiff 45 knotter blowing down the runway.
Which we have every day.
Yeah.
And, yeah, no weight on. It's not difficult.
Out of England now, Terminal 5, British Airways flagship terminal.
Yep.
Glass and concrete. Quite smart, although it does have a sort of...
You've been in it?
I have been in it.
Uh-huh.
2 things I remember.
Right.
I was in it last year.
Yep.
2 things I remember is a pervading smell of sort of damp concrete, because it's one of those exposed concrete and glass buildings.
Okay.
Pretty flash, though.
Don't know if I like that smell.
Yeah, sort of that musty
Yeah,
smell.
sort of like motel smell.
Yeah.
All right.
The check-in desks are pretty cool, because when you go in up to check in, put your luggage on the little belt and get your boarding pass and everything,
Yep.
the luggage goes down.
Right. Down.
And so when you've got your boarding pass, you don't have to reverse tracks or go left or right.
Oh, so
you can just walk through the...
straight ahead.
Yeah, immigration, everything's right behind the check-in desk.
And that's more efficient?
Yes.
Oh.
You don't have people backtracking, getting in the way.
Yeah, well, that would cause,
It's a one-way
chaos.
It's a one-way queue, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is pretty
And
flash.
it's big. Is it big?
It's very big.
Right.
Very airy and multiple levels, but the levels are kind of exposed, so you've got these massive atriums,
Right.
which is leading to their problem. Some of those atriums are 37 metres high,
Whoa.
and there's light bulbs up there,
Oh, dear.
and they're finding it quite difficult to change.
How many?
Well, in the building, there's 120,000 up in the
Oh,
ceiling.
you can just imagine the...
Yeah, you'd have thought they would have pre-planned a gantry system or something.
So they
up there.
pop, and then what?
Yeah,
It takes a while to find something that gets up
Yeah, you got to
37
get up
metres.
there and get them out.
I guess some of the areas are looking a bit shady.
Yeah.
And back home, we've talked about Queenstown a few times, and I see that the Air New Zealand head is saying that Air New Zealand's considering flying bigger planes into Queenstown to cope with adverse weather, he says, and also the expanding airport. I think there are plans there, if I'm not mistaken, for some convention centres, which probably would drive some traffic, I would imagine. They've got, ATRs going in there, from Christchurch and from Wellington, and possibly from other centres. Pretty sure I've seen some A320s there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think that it's more about wanting to send bigger planes there more often, because
Right.
I'm pretty sure A320s go there already.
Yeah.
Certainly
but
from other airlines.
big gap in seats, though, because you've
Yeah.
got the ATR 68-seater, the 600s, the new ones.
Yeah.
And the next bracket is right to 168 to 170 seats, the A320. They really need something in the middle there, don't they? Around 120 seat. 120.
Well, that's what Virgin's done in Aussie. They've gone and bought those Embraers, haven't
Yeah,
they? 190s.
But they'd be more expensive than the ATR, probably.
They would be in
Considerably.
New Zealand's population. You wouldn't want too many aircraft types, would you?
No. I was just thinking, the old 737-200 with 113 or whatever seats they had in their normal operation, that probably was the ideal size for Queenstown.
Well, ATR have been sort of floating this 90-seater plus big turboprop. De Havilland Canada or Bombardier, they've just announced I think it's an 86-seater Dash 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, take out the forward cargo hold and put extra seats in there.
Okay.
And that's an 86-seat turboprop.
Oh, that adds what is it without the modification?
70.
Oh, that's quite a few seats there.
Yeah.
What about the C Series? They'd have to look at that, wouldn't they?
Well, there's lots of things they could look at, but again, I don't know if they want to add another fleet.
Okay.
C-Series, that Sukhoi Superjet, Yeah. Which, according to
they wouldn't buy Russian, though, would they?
No, they wouldn't. But why not? I mean...
Yeah, well, I don't see why not.
According to the Mexican airline Interjet, which is running them, I don't know how much they're being paid to say this, but they are very, very happy with the Sukhois that they've got. Yeah.
Okay, they're reliable and doing well.
Seem to be reliable. Fuel burns lower than expected.
Well, we should, as a nation, be ordering that new IL-76 with the new engines. For our Air Force, we should have them. They're cheap.
They're cheap and they're very capable.
They've been flying since the early 70s.
So you're not suggesting that Australia and New Zealand should get together and form a joint transport command and Air New Zealand buys a couple of transport planes?
Yeah, why not?
The Anzac again?
Yeah, there we go.
Uh-huh.
But I'd be very surprised if it was anything that wasn't, a Western product.
No, they'd never go there.
Yeah. Anyway, only gadget I can think of is the Xbox 360.
No, and the PlayStation 4.
The new. They're going out the door. They sold 1 million in the first week. Xbox.
They both did. It's the first day.
First day. So that's a turnover about $300 million US right there.
Right there.
I mean, they just know it's going to be huge, don't they?
And it's very interesting because unlike everything else, it gets recycled every couple of years. Those consoles, they have a life of sort of 5 to 7 years.
Oh, okay.
People keep them around for a long time. And they do that because the games are custom written for them.
I tell you,
they want to give them a long life.
The latest graphics, I've seen some videos, just mind-blowing.
It is pretty amazing.
They're so real, organic.
Yeah, very clever.
To a new level.
Yeah.
And they've got like hair that waves.
And smoke effects. Smoke actually, it billows.
Incredible,
It is very clever.
I suppose their processors are ultra-powerful now, are they?
Yeah, actually the guts of them, they've got, actually, if anything, a little more PC-like.
Oh, okay.
So they're easier to write games for, and of course they're taking advantage of all the latest graphics improvements and everything.
Yeah.
But they are very spectacular. I generally don't do consoles though because I've never really got the hang of the controller.
Yeah. Still keyboard and mouse.
Oh, for gaming, yeah.
Yeah, very, very traditional. I don't think I'll move away from that.
Call of Duty can't beat a keyboard and a mouse.
Yeah, is that right? I bet you've got some pretty good action from all these years of doing that. Well, we're out of time again. There goes another couple of weeks in the world of aviation. We won't be talking about a $130 billion order next time we're talking.
No.
But something will have happened.
Absolutely.
It always does. Until then, Paul Brennan here in Wellington.
And Martin Noakes.
See you later.
Cheers.